Hi everyone. Today we want to learn chapter 17 regarding world markets in goods and credit. For this chapter, the course targets are to understand net international investment position of a country, and then to understand the balance of payment of a country. And the reading for this part is chapter 17 from the textbook. Now we want to learn a definition of net international investment position. First, we start from people within a country. So suppose this country has two citizens, and one of them decided to issue a $100 bond to borrow money from the other person. In this case, for these two persons, their bond holding balance would be, for first person, he would increase $100 worth of bond holding, and for the second person, it would have a negative $100 bond holding position drop. So when we look at these two persons together and we sum them together, suppose this country only has these two persons, then when we sum them together, the total number will be called the national bond investment position. And here I put down private because I assume we are just talking about private bond. So in this case, we know that whenever a person issues a bond and borrow money from the other, there must be a borrower and lender on both sides. Therefore, when you sum everybody's bond investment position, it would always be equal to 0. However, if the person who issued the bond is not selling the bond to home citizen, instead, he sells the bond to a foreigner. In this case, foreign country citizen pay $100 to obtain a bond position of $100. So in this case, home country citizen's bond position would decrease by 100, and the bond position of foreign country would increase by 100. Now we go back to look at the summation of national bond investment position, which only sum all the bond position of home country citizen. In this case, this transaction would make the sum of national bond investment position become negative because there's no lender inside home country on the other side. So it will not cancel out this number. So whenever home country issue bond and borrow money from foreign countries, then this country's national bond investment position will drop. On the other hand, home country can exist a borrower who want to borrow also $100, and he sell the bond to a home citizen. In this case, home country citizen, his bond investment position will increase by 100, and foreign country bond investment position will drop by 100. So for this story, home country bond position increases by 100, but the bond is not issued by home citizen, so there won't be a lender side exist in this scenario within home country. Therefore, it will not cancel out this positive 100. What we have so far is that if home country lends money to foreign country, obtain foreign bonds, then home country's bond position will increase due to that transaction. Now we go to a more realistic scenario. Home country can have so many citizens. Each one of them has a different bond position, B1, B2, B3, and so on. If we sum the bond positions of the entire country, we denote it as BF. Then how would this BF number change in terms of any kind of bond transactions? For the first scenario, if home country sell bond to foreign country. In this case, apparently, the total bond position BF would definitely drop. So we must know that BF would drop if home country sell bonds to foreign country, which means home country owes more money to foreign country, then BF would drop. On the other hand, if foreign country sells bonds to home country, then at least one of the citizens' bond holding position, bond investment position will increase. It would mean that the sum of everybody's bond position, BF, will also increase. So what we have so far is that if home country lends more money to foreign countries, on the other hand, it will mean that the home country will buy more bonds. In this case, the national bond investment position, BF, will increase. So BF, in general, is equal to the total amount of money that home invests or lends to foreign minus the total amount of dollars that home owes to foreign or foreign invests in home country. So we call this term BF, actually, we call it the net international investment position of the home country. And this net investment position will not be affected if the bond transaction is among citizens, which means that it will be some B number increase against the other B number decrease. They will cancel each other if the bond transaction is not internationally. So that's why we call it net international investment position. So any bond trading that's not internationally involved will not affect this number. Now we go back to look at household budget constraint. We know that budget constraint of a household comes from these 5 major sources: labor income, rental income, the asset income from bond holding, transfer payment from government, and the interest payment from government bond. And so the sum of these 5 parts would be the left side of household budget constraint. And for this income, household spend it in the following 5 ways. First, for consumption, and then for capital investment, and then to buy more bond or sell more bond, and to pay tax, and then to buy or sell more government bonds. So if we sum these 5 components together, that will be the right-hand side of household budget constraint. So if we sum every household's budget constraint, so we look at those B number there will be a lot of household 1 will be B1, delta B1, household 2 will be B2, delta B2, household 3 would have B3, delta B3. When we sum them together, it will be BF as what we know. And delta B, if we sum them together, will be delta BF. So when we aggregate all the households in the economy, then this budget constraint would have 2 terms need to be replaced with something else. The first one is IB, will be replaced with IBF, which is the BF is the sum of all the bond position of every household. Following the same reason, delta B will be replaced by delta BF, which is the change of the net international investment position. So if we sum household budget constraint together, the income side will be changed into what we saw there. I highlighted the change in red color. And the right-hand side, delta B will be replaced with delta BF. Now we are ready to learn balance of international payments. If we look at the household in aggregate, then we can move around the household budget constraint to the following equation. This equation basically seems seems that we just simply move BF out of the original positions. And then we can rearrange term to the following equation, which simply move the two terms regarding government to the right-hand side. And then this term, we know that according to government budget constraint, it would be equal to total government purchase. And therefore, we end up with equation 4. In this equation, wage income plus the rental income of capital, we know it will be equal to the total output value, which is GDP. Also, on the right-hand side, this term basically is the investment of private sectors. So we can rewrite the equation and boil down to the last one. This is the one that we are going to use to look at balance of international payments. First, when we look at this equation, the first term, PY, basically represents the income that comes from our production this period. And the second term is the income that comes from our net international investment position, and it is the interest income it yields this year. And so two terms together, they are the income source that a country can spend in each period. And if we remind us the following three terms, they represent the total spending a country has made. When we have the total income minus the total spending of a country, it might not be always zero. Sometimes there's money left. So when there's money left, we can use it to increase our net international investment position, which means we can invest more in a net term in foreign countries to build up more wealth. And of course, this term may be negative. It can be the case that we actually the whole nation spend more than the whole nation's income source. In this case, we are not really saving internationally. In net term, we are borrowing internationally. And all the terms on the left-hand side measuring the total income that is unspent within a country. So total income that's not spent within a country, we call it the current account balance. And we use the notation CA. Whenever CA is larger than 0, then we have some money left from this period's income. Then we have a current account surplus. And if it is negative, then we say that we have a current account deficit. So as you can see that apparently based on this budget constraint, if we have the current account surplus, which means that we are going to increase our international investment position, delta BF will be larger than 0. If CA is negative, which means that we are decreasing our net international investment position, which means that delta BF is negative. Now we look closer that the first two terms actually is the income that belongs to the nation, regardless of whether it is domestically produced. This is the definition of gross national product, which is called GNP. So it is the income that solely belongs to the nation, regardless of the location of its source. And the next term is the domestic total expenditure. Okay? So based on this explanation, we learned that current account balance basically tracks how much the national income is unspent. So it tracks how much we save from our national income. Okay. And now we go back to that equation, and then this time we rearrange term to this way. This rearrangement basically simply shift these two terms, interchange them. So for the first part, we have the total production within home country minus the total expenditure within the home country. So this will be called trade balance. Why it is called trade balance? Because if the home production is more than home expenditure, which means that we must have some home production being exported in the net term. So the net export must be larger than 0 in this case, if PY is larger than total expenditure. On the other hand, if our home production level is less than domestic purchasing need, it must mean that in home country, we must have imported something from foreign country. In this case, trade balance will be negative. So basically, trade balance is larger than 0 will be called trade balance surplus. If it is negative, then it is called trade balance deficit. And for the second term, it is basically the net asset income from abroad, because BF is our net international investment position, and then IBF will be the return that is generated. So basically, this decomposition tells us that the source of a current account, basically, its balance comes from two parts. One is trade balance, how much money we earn from trade, and the other part comes from the asset income generated from our international investment position. So this is the second point that we come to. Current account balance reflects the contributions from trade and foreign asset incomes. Then we go back to the equation again. This time we rearrange it to the following way. This arrangement basically just moves these two income sources together. However, we separate the private investment out of the entire expenditure. So what does this expression mean? The first term is actually national saving, because it is this nation's total income source minus the consumption of the household and the purchase of government. So this is the income source that is unspent by household and the government. This is the definition of national saving. And of course, the part that for the second one, it would simply mean national investment. So basically, it shows us that current account balance basically also reflects the gap between national saving and national investment. If national saving is larger than national investment, it must mean that current account balance is positive, is surplus. Then it must mean that we have part of national saving that must be used for accumulating net international investment position, which means delta BF must be positive. On the other hand, if national saving is less than national investment, then we have this shortage of funds for investment. It must come from the fact that we borrow from overseas market. Then it would mean that we will see a decrease in our net international investment position, which means that delta BF will be negative in this case. So basically, current account balance reflects the excess national saving relative to national investment. Now we turn to some historical data of U.S. current account balance. This is a graph of U.S. current account balance divided by its GDP for that year. As we can see that U.S. current account balance basically fluctuating around zero most of the time until 1975. After 1975, U.S. current account balance seems to run deficit through the years. So 1975 actually is the crucial year. After that, this current account deficit reflect the fact that after 1975, the United States of America basically spent more than its income almost every year. Then, if the country is spending more than its income every year, then it would mean that its net international investment position must decrease over time, because we know that current account deficit would mean that the delta BF will be negative. If the change of BF is negative, then this BF value would decrease. So that's why we can see from the figure 17.3, which is the ratio of U.S. net international investment position, which is BF, relative to GDP. This ratio is decreasing over time, which reflects the observation that current account deficit that we see after 1975. So U.S. net international investment position is dwindling after that. And of course, when BF is decreasing over time, I times BF, which is the asset income generated by net international investment position, would decrease over time after 1975. So the decrease of net international investment position of U.S. actually decreases the contribution of net asset income from abroad to the CA balance. Okay. So we know that the contribution to CA balance comes from two parts. One is the asset income generated by net international investment position. As we can see, it is decreasing after 1975. That's why the U.S. Current account balance is decreasing to negative. That's one reason. But other than that, the other contribution is trade balance. If we look at the U.S. trade balance, we can see that actually the contribution of trade balance actually after 1975, it is decreasing as well, and it is actually negative. So U.S. is running a trade balance deficit. Okay, and actually the major reason that U.S. current account balance is running in the deficit term, that is mainly because the U.S. trade deficit is pretty huge after 1975.